a documentary about the band, the Dream Syndicate from Los Angeles. They started here in 1981. I've been working on this documentary for a little bit more than 10 years. And the first US screening of the documentary was last Saturday, May 6th. And well, it actually was a nice coincidence. We were, since I wasn't allowed into the States last year, I still had a lot of vouchers from the flights. And, so we were coming over here anyways. And so it was a nice coincidence. They booked a screening for the movie and we were going to be here. So
that's wonderful.
Oh, that's convenient.
That
I assumed you were coming for the screening.
No, it actually worked out that way. The screening was supposed to be in February and it was postponed. So it just...
Yeah, and
that's great.
And it was outdoors too.
It was outdoors.
It was like in someone's backyard. What was that? Where was
Whose
this
house was it?
Yeah, who hosted this party, and what? How did it become like an outdoor party screening?
I don't actually know the real story behind it. I know who hosted it. His name is Paul Rock from the Wild Honey Foundation. All the money is going to be used for how do you call it in English?
That's charity.
Charity.
Yeah,
that's the word I was looking for. He's friends with the band for very long, and this guy who's friends with the band and with working for the record company, Pat Thomas, I believe he organized the screening, and also two of the original band members, Steve Wynn and Dennis Duck, were at the screening.
And was that the first time you ran into Steve? And do you call him Duck or do you just call him
Dennis?
You call him Duck.
Dennis,
Okay. Was
He
that the
has
first?
another last name.
Yeah.
That's not his real last name.
Everyone calls him Dennis Duck, though, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was great. And was that the first time you'd seen them since you filmed them?
No, I did not. Since I'm originally from Amsterdam, the band was touring Europe last October, and then the documentary was already finished. And we booked a screening in Amsterdam at the end of the tour. So it was also Steve Wynn and Dennis Duck. They were also there at the Dutch premiere of the movie.
Which you were obviously there for. But how Dream Syndicate? Why?
Yeah, what's your origin story?
Fan? Yeah.
Your origin story for Dream Syndicate.
It all started in 2003 at the famous Paradiso in Amsterdam, this concert venue. I was 19 at the moment, and I was a huge Ryan Adams fan, and it was my first time seeing Ryan Adams perform. I was very excited going there. But it was Steve Wynn and the Miracle 3 opening for Ryan Adams. And the opening band was either equally as good or maybe even better than the main act. So I was very impressed with the band and started following Steve Wynn in the years after. And after shows, he's usually performing in the smaller concert venues around Europe, the 200-300 seat places. And after the shows, he's always very approachable, and you can talk to him at merch stand. So I talked to him quite a few times after the shows, and I also had a music television show at a local TV station called Music in the Backyard. This helped me to get in touch with a lot of musicians and also Steve Wynn. So once in 2009, when I was living in Los Angeles for a year, I was studying film here. The first week I was here, Steve Wynn was performing at the Troubadour with his band, The Baseball Project. He has this band together with...
My favorite.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
Yeah.
His band's the band together with his wife, Linda Pittman, and the guys from REM.
Who I have Linda on my shirt.
Oh, nice, nice.
It's the...
Yeah.
Anyway.
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a reason for it's the
The filthy French shirt.
Yeah, the filthy-
For those who can't see it.
Show the camera.
the filthy friends.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's Linda, Pete Buck, and everyone who's played with
Yeah,
Steve
it's
Wynn.
also Scott McCoy, right?
Scott McCoy, yeah.
I walked in the venue and I walked right into Steve Wynn, and he recognized me. And he introduced me to his friends and family who were also at the show, since he's originally from Los Angeles. And I started talking to his friends, and at a certain moment, I was talking to his mom. And I told her I was starting film school here in a few weeks. And she just said it at a certain point, well, would it be nice if someone ever makes a movie about my son? And in the coming weeks, I started thinking about it. It always was my dream to make a music documentary. I've been working at television already for quite a few years, but being a huge fan of music documentaries, and for quite a few years, I made it my mission to see every music documentary out there. And this seemed like a really interesting subject, and Steve seemed to be pretty down with the idea. So it took a few years, since I was mid-20s, just starting out. I was asking around if it was possible to maybe get some funding anywhere, but that seemed to be too hard.
Yeah.
So I just started out in 2012. Well, I'll just pay for it myself. I really want to do this project, and I want to meet all these musicians and hear their stories. So the first interview was actually Ryan Adams. I really didn't think this would happen. I just emailed his management and told him about this project, and they said, sure.
That's
Go
amazing.
meet him and interview him. And I thought, well, this is going to be easy,
Yeah, right.
which in the end it wasn't. But
Yeah, 10 years
it was
later, right?
10 years later, but it was a really nice start. So a year later, I booked a flight with a friend from film school to the United States and talked to all the band members and, well, everyone affiliated to the band. Yeah, that was the start of this project until I got back home. One thing that I should mention, it actually, back then the idea was that it should be a film about Steve Wynn, his whole career. At that point, a 30-year-long career. First the Dream Syndicate in the 80s, then his solo career in the 90s, and of course the baseball project, but also the Miracle 3 and all these other bands that he has done, which I thought at the time would be a very interesting story, which it is. But once I started editing the 40, 50 hours of interviews I already had, after a couple of months, I started thinking, "Oh my God, what am I doing? This is so much. How can I get a coherent story out of this? It's just a great band over here, great music over there. How can I get a decent storyline which will be interesting for the whole duration of the movie?" So I kind of got stuck there for quite a few years, until the Dream Syndicate started recording actual a new album. They reunited in 2012. For those who don't know, the Dream Syndicate were there from 1981 until 1988, and then they broke up and they got together in 2012 again. But for quite a few years, they were only playing the old songs.
Yeah.
And in 2017, they recorded their first album with the reunited band. And Steve got back in touch with me, like, "Hey, what's happening with the movie? I didn't hear from you for quite a few years." And I have to admit, for all those years, it became one of those things. Friends ask me about it. "So what's happening with this documentary?" And I always responded, "Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know what to do with this project. I started it, but I don't know how to finish it. And so once Steve got back in touch with me, and I was sure that he was still having my back on this project, I started thinking about how to actually finish it and what would be the new approach. And all of a sudden, it came to me. Of course, it shouldn't be about his whole career. It should be about just the Dream Syndicate. And over the years, the story became even more interesting because they started recording more albums, which just surprised everyone all over again. Each album they released with the reunion was just had a new musical approach. It was still the Dream Syndicate, recognizable as a Dream Syndicate, but very surprising every time what they came up with. So it was a really interesting story. And there once was a story which had, well, actually, there were highs and and lows, and a real evaluation in the music that they were creating. So all of a sudden, there was a story which was interesting enough to create a movie which wasn't 4 hours long to cover everything that Steve did.
This is it's so interesting that because people, probably the core audience for this movie will be people who were fans of Dream Syndicate back in the 80s.
Yes.
It's great that they're still making music and really good music, but that you were not a fan in the 80s of their original. I just assume, I think we all assume when someone makes it like a passion project that you were an original fan. So that's really interesting that you came to them later, came to him later.
Yes. Yeah. I discovered the Dream Syndicate through Steve's solo work with his solo band, the Miracle 3. They were covering a lot of the Dream Syndicate material. So I've heard a lot of it live. And because of this, I started discovering all the music they did in the 80s.
Yeah, and like all bands, there's players that come in and leave, and new guitarist comes in and brings some sort of new direction to the band. Although there's still the Steve Wynn through line.